Right, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. And I'd like to thank Steve and Matt from 8x8 for presenting today and for sharing their knowledge about the 8x8 speech analytics and quality management services. You will notice that cameras are turned off, microphones are on, but please mute them whilst the presentation's going on. And if you have any questions, please use the Q&A tab at the top. Please don't use the chat function. At the end of the presentation, if you have any questions, please do turn on your mic and we'll go from there. I just wanted to share a couple of points before handing over to Steve. When speaking with customers, we have really noticed that business information is critical for how they're driving their businesses forward. So it's understanding how calls are being processed, how interactions are being processed, and how to make the most of opportunities or how to best manage customer inquiries. And actually, I've got a little bit of a clip here from an 8x8 customer in the States. So this is supply side. And what they've shared is by utilizing the 8x8 services, we can see exactly how our agent team is performing. We can coach people as needed. We can better allocate resources based on call volumes, and this is helping them to really improve the level of customer service. So, as I say, that business information that customers are looking for is helping them to reduce their average handling time of calls, improve their first call resolution, improve their customer experience, and improve their employee experience, because the employees are really struggling with support right now. And if you can help to identify areas that they need support using the speech analytics and the quality management, then it's a win-win for customers as well as the employees and agents. So I'm going to hand over to Steve now, and Steve's going to tell us about some of the advances that 8x8 have made. And then Steve's going to hand over to Matt, and Matt's going to give us a guided tour of the speech analytics and quality management. So over to you, Steve.
Yep, thank you, Mark. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Steve Edmonds, and I head up a team of pre-sales engineers here at 8x8. In a previous webinar that NSL provided around 8x8's Intelligent Customer Assistant, we talked a lot about AI, and obviously Intelligent Customer Assistant is all around 8x8's conversational and generative AI bot technology. But during that conversation, I think we touched on where AI comes into the wider landscape of 8x8 solutions, and speech analytics and quality management is one of those areas. And I think one of the key elements of speech analytics is obviously the ability to analyze the speech and the ability to accurately transcribe speech into text. If we think about the conversation we're having now, and Mark's recording this webinar, we are having a conversation, we're having a chat, and it's very much unstructured data. But once you convert voice into text, that makes it something that can then be analyzed, that you can then look at different focus areas within conversations to pick out keywords and phrases, to look at root cause analysis about what a conversation is actually about. And that's one of the key things that hopefully speech analytics will provide you. And the quality management piece is obviously around, ensuring that you can train your agents, your contact center colleagues, reduce their churn rate. Obviously, the most expensive resource in your contact center is typically the people who work in it. And therefore, the ability to retain those people who are highly trained, who focus on those key areas of revenue generation, of customer retention, are well motivated and have the tools that they need to do the job that you want them to. I'm just going to quickly really just briefly share my screen, folks, and show you this report. And what this report shows you is the transcription accuracy. So going back into AI world, we spoke about, I just mentioned the fact that without accurate transcription of that voice into text, the speech analytics tools can't do their job. And quite interesting in this report, the lower number is the better one. It's all around error word error detection or rates, and therefore the lower your rate of error, the better your transcription is. So this was an independent report done by the Tolly Group. They compared it against a couple of our competitors, and you can see here 8x8 by far came out with the lowest error rate when doing AI voice transcription. And just to back that up a little bit, you can download this report. It's freely available. Myself or Mark could provide this to you, just to show you again the range of accents and the regions that this was based on. So you can see here with the calls are done across a lot of different use cases, across a lot of different accents, and how 8x8 compared against those two competitors there. So the accuracy of our transcription is really, really good, enabling you to rely on our ability to give you great analysis of those calls. So with that, folks, I'm going to stop sharing, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the webinar, and over to you, Matt.
Steve, can I ask a question just before Matt starts there? So you were talking about the accuracy of the transcription side. So 8x8 is not an everyday phrase terminology. So how do you teach the transcription to recognize 8x8?
Okay, so that's a good question, Mark. So I mean, behind the scenes here, we're using AI tools. So it's actually Whisper Turbo is the engine that we're using right now to do the majority of that transcription. Okay. And obviously our transcription has improved as time's gone on, as AI tools have improved as well. But also, and I think this is in beta right now, Matt, but our customers and ourselves can add like a customized dictionary as well to that transcription engine. So for example, 8x8 may be the word 8 by BY8. You can say, if you hear this in the conversation, it actually means 8x8 or 8x8. So you can then put in maybe competitors' names in your into that engine. You may have specific product names that may be not in a standard dictionary. Yeah. So yes, you can help train the engine and to look for some key phrases and do that translation bit yourselves. Yeah.
So that 3% or just over 3% that you mentioned for the error rate currently would be even improved on that once this has come out of beta. So that's something to look forward to.
Absolutely, yes. Yep.
Thank you very much, Steve. Sorry, Matt, over to you.
Thank you, Mark. So let me start screen share, and hopefully you guys have got that all right. Excellent. So this is what we call our speech engine, and this is really the heart or the brain of what we call QMSA or quality management and speech analytics. Effectively, what do I have on my screen? Well, I want to start in the middle where we have our honeycomb. And what our honeycomb is giving us is it's giving us some keywords. I've got compliance, customer experience, and a couple of different mediums there. So this engine not just talking about voice, but also looking at other channels supported within the 8x8 contact center stack. We are going to concentrate on voice today, but this then spreading over web chat, WhatsApp, whatever you're plugging into your contact center engine, allowing us to see that. Breaking out into keywords and phrases like customer experience, where we have things like caller appreciation, caller negative emotion, and giving me the power to actually break out into these interactions, giving me a greater understanding and a greater insight into these interactions themselves. We'll touch on that in a moment, but where have these words come from? I think it's an important question to answer first. Well, they come from three main places, be it from 8x8, starting you off with a few hundred, and we can see some of those running down the left-hand side where we have that caller appreciation, and we've got the keywords and phrases like above and beyond, being a big help, being a great help, and we've added these in, as I say, to start you off. Now, the chat engine itself actually listening to your calls as well, so listening to the words and phrases that it's hearing. So in my case, I have functionality, people, engage, recording, and it's hearing these words through the platform saying, hey, why don't you look at these, because I'm hearing them a lot, why don't you take these into consideration? And the third spot that we're getting these interactions from and these words from is from your knowledge and your industry yourselves, being able to add in your own keywords and phrases to build out your own lexicon of language, to be able to find the words and conversations that most impact your business, and allowing you to dive into those calls in a little bit more detail. So let's take an example of that. And I'm actually going to pivot ever so slightly down the side here to my interactions tab, where not just looking at the keywords and phrases that we have in our honeycomb on the last screen, taking into consideration things like date range. So if I want to see calls from a certain period, taking into other considerations, being able to take in things like emotional overtone. So where we're looking at the sentiment analysis, I can then double down on positive calls, on negative calls, and add in filters to find the exacts and the specifics that I want to. Or being able to look at things like etiquette within the contact center, being able to look at things like overtalk. And then again, having that same capacity to layer in mostly positive, mostly negative, and actually then start to look at percentages as well. So if you want to look at calls where we're looking at an acceptable amount of overtalk, let's say that's 5-10% in your case, being able to say, I'm actually not interested in anything with that in, and not just looking at calls where certain processes are happening, but also looking at calls where certain processes aren't happening on the flip side of that. And as you can see, I won't read them all out, I'll go blue in the face, but we have a real wealth of filters allowing us to really drill down into the specifics of the calls that you want to, right from the calls themselves to actions taken. So things like transaction codes being used, actions like being transferred from a certain department or certain team. Now, I have a wealth of call recordings here, and what I want to do for you is break into a specific one. What I can do within here is if I click on that call, I get a myriad of information, whether that be something like emotional overtone, filterable, and I can see at a quick view, was this a positive call? Was this a negative call? Also giving me a breakdown into some of the other analytics within the 8x8 engine, giving me quick access to things like the customer journey. So not just taking into consideration how this call went, but also doing things like taking into consideration how did this call actually get here, and is that going to affect the call summarization that we'll see in a moment. Allowing me to then actually go into that timeline, play, listen back to that call. My quick actions, once again, are allowing me to jump to key moments in that call, whether it be aiming at a specific emotional overtone where I want to see the positive elements of this call, clicking on and taking me to being able to then go to those events. So let's go to mostly positive, taking me to the positive parts of that call. Now, once I have that part of the call, not needing to cut it all out, what I can do is if I want to take that and add it to my training file, so when my new starters go, they can hear the best of the best, taking that snippet, saving it, and the tool taking that and adding it to my QM tools. Once we then have that, let's jump back to my calls there. I can then continue to listen through. What I could also do is I can at people. So I can make notes on the timeline. This is a great bit of now what I can also do is I know my colleague Ben Smith has a great ear for a call recording. I want him to have a quick listen. I can at him at any point in this, so he'll get a notification. If he's also a quality manager like this user, he'll be able to go in, make his own notes, and make this more of a collaborative approach. Alternatively, if I wanted to feed back to this agent, I can see that it's Peter. I have the ability to take all that information we've seen so far and run an evaluation on that call, taking the wealth of information that I've got from the transcript, giving me the ability to jump to the keywords and phrases that I've isolated before, or go in and stand on the shoulders of other QM agents who've already done some of my work with those snippets that we saw there, seeing that throughout. Now, when we talk about the evaluations, I'm going to edit one that we've seen earlier. I get the ability to build out my own bespoke evaluations, giving me the capacity and the processes to build very specific reports driven towards the needs of that user and their day-to-day job, and being able to give that feedback in simple yes and no based answers, sliding scales to give me the insight, more rich text and comment driven elements, and allow me to give that complete feedback at the end of the call, sending email notifications to say, hey, this is your evaluation, or alternatively sending coaching requests. but that then becomes more of an interactive process, allowing me to give them that feedback and improve that customer experience. Still in this interface, give me everything we've seen before, so I can listen back to that call. I can see the data that runs alongside it. And what this tool also incorporates is some screen recording functionality as well. So if you want to enable the functionality to be able to see what they were seeing while they were taking these calls, allowing you to not just improve processes from a call handling perspective, but potential other business processes. So if you're utilizing a CRM, how can we utilize this QM tool to turn those 4 clicks into 2, improving your customer experience in other ways? Now, these evaluations themselves are a great way to give that feedback, but also a great way to see and establish development of your users. With the quality management historical tools, allowing me to see percentage attainments across days, weeks, months, and eventually years. So if you're doing 1 evaluation a week, 1 evaluation a day, giving you the ability to watch your users grow from 52% to 66 to 78, and allowing you to have these reports just within the tool. Again, giving you the flexibility to search those via date range, giving you the flexibility to filter based on the types of interactions, and also giving you grand totals. So as a supervisor, as a leader within your organization, you can say with confidence what percentage and how well your team are acting and performing as an organization. And those are some of the insights that we can give you through our quality management and speech analytics tool. Any questions around that?
Matt, am I understanding correctly that every call is analyzed? Because the feedback that we're getting from businesses is that they're really struggling to sit there and listen to even 5-10 phone calls in a month. And they're just cherry picking or a shot in the dark. Which call do I listen to? So how is this highlighting which calls a team leader should listen to or run a test on?
It's a great question, Mark, and you're absolutely right. This tool is listening to every call, and as I said at the beginning, not just every call, but every interaction itself. Now, how do we decide what types of calls we're monitoring and what types of calls we're reviewing? That all comes down to how we build our filters. Now, I've got a few at the top. I've got where I'm looking at specifically Gwen's calls. I've got some filters where I'm looking at, and I just want to understand my positive calls, allowing me to build in those filters. And with that customization of these filters, I can really drill in and make them specific to those interactions where I might have concerns around specific things, or I might want to celebrate the successes, to allow me to have filters that are basically just dredging out the interactions that I need to review. And as you say, no longer cherry picking is needed because the tools are going in and going, right, these are the interactions we need to review. These are the ones I want to review. These are where I want to take some snippets to do that training, allowing me to build out a workspace where I can effectively once a week, once a day, come in, see what's new, take my snips and turn that long, arduous process or that guesswork into quick, efficient insights into the types of interactions that are coming through the platform.
Brilliant. Thanks, Matt. Are there kind of any industries as such that are really grasping this and moving forwards with it, or is this generally being taken on board by the contact centers within 8x8?
I would say generally across 8x8. The places where I've seen a lot of success are some of the industries where phrases are needed to be said within certain calls, insurance firms and such. We've seen a great success with being able to use this tool to just filter out and filter in calls where, this is not legal information, for instance, has to be said. Build out a filter where every call where that's not said comes up and address those compliancy issues. Or is it more customer success driven, where we want to make sure everyone's getting the best experience possible? With the flexibility of the tool and our capacity to build out bespoke filters and bespoke views really gives us the ability to pivot this to any industry. So I would say that there's not a specific industry that it points at, but there's definitely some quick wins for some that we can do day 1 versus day 30, day 60.
Brilliant. And just going back to the fact that I mentioned voice there, but you actually mentioned that this can be chat and
Yeah,
digital
absolutely.
channels as well. So multi-channel assessments on that.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, if we just go for more of a, if I just go for a generic view here, and we'll say, let's say the last year, we'll see as I search for that filter, see all my interactions where I've got some chats coming through. I've got some emails here, but always coming back to things like voice as well. So however we're interacting with our customers, making sure that experience is best, and then building out our speech center lexicons. So as you'll notice, I've specified mine, so I want customer experience and view on chat, but you could just generally say customer experience, giving you the flexibility to point those how you need to. Yeah. Certain medias lend themselves to certain terminology and language better, so let's empower our tool to be able to see that.
And below the speech bubbles that you've looked at there, you mentioned that it'll pick up on new words, new phrases. So if a business launched a new product or service, and then they started receiving specific feedback about that, these reports could highlight words or phrases around those new products.
I can simply go, you know what, I want to start looking at all my calls where the word functionality is said. Great, let me just add that into my honeycomb at the top, and then start listening to those calls, giving me the ability to be more, what's the word, to be more proactive. Thank you, Mark, with finding those interactions that we need to want to understand in more detail. Great for things like marketing. We've seen, you know, where are our leads coming from? Great, let's add that word in and indulge and engage in those conversations where they're coming from certain lead sources, allowing us to invest more there and giving us a greater return on investment on processes like that.
That's actually a key element, because I spoke about it with a customer yesterday in a meeting where they were saying the transaction codes are not always accurate because it's a manual process. But if you could look for keywords that are automatically being kind of pulled together, that could be a more accurate representation of where your leads are coming from. So for a business, that could be amazing for the marketing team.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another one of those quick wins that I mentioned earlier.
Brilliant. Well, I haven't got any more questions through the Q&A. So thank you so much, Matt, for walking us through that. And Steve, thank you for sharing about the new technologies and how 8x8 are improving the transcription accuracy. And look forward to the new webinar. To the next webinar.
Cheers, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
gents.
lovely afternoon, guys.